the most disrespected position in football, the most replaceable position in football, but perhaps the most exciting position in football. Football fans far and wide, welcome to the Football v Football podcast. This is the top 10 all-time greatest running backs. We got OY, we got NF, and we got the Rada on the podcast today. How you guys doing?
Doing great, man. I'm excited. Let's do it.
Let's jump right into it. We also got Yada here to assist Naif in some of his picks. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start with OY. What we're gonna do it, how we're gonna do it is everyone is gonna give their number 10 guy, and then we're gonna go from there 9, 8, 7, 6, and so on and so forth. So OY, why don't you go ahead and drop your number 10 greatest running back on us? Who do you got?
So real quick, and I'm sorry, I should have asked. Are we doing honorable mentions, and do you want us to do them now or later?
We can do them at the end. Honorable mention, we'll do it at the end, so we know who's on the list, or we don't get a clue of who's left off somebody's list.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So at number 10, 10th greatest running back of all time, because we're doing all time, unlike quarterback where we only did modern.
Exactly.
Era.
Yeah. So the way the way I pretty much rationalized it is, we're gonna find that the older running backs are probably going to be the greatest running backs of all time because the position is changing. Yes, Rada, it is recording. So basically, a lot of these guys in the modern era, they play less years, and they're not going to really be the greatest of all time. That's what we're going to find. A little bit of a spoiler there. So yes, we are doing all time.
Okay. Sorry for that tangent, but okay. So number 10 running back of all time, I have Sherman Williams, running back, Dallas Cowboys.
What the?
Let's see, he had 302 carries for 1,162 yards, Super Bowl ring, 10th greatest. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So I saw it look on Naif's face though. Man, he was supposed to be Barry Sanders, and then
I had him at number
8. Isn't he selling paint now? He's talking about Sherwood Williams.
All right, so number 10. Number 10, I have actually Gale Sayers. In all seriousness, Gale Sayers was, and I agree with Naif. He made this point that it's really hard, when you have to go back so far in history. But I always try to look at how these guys played in their era. You can't compare them to today's game, right? So Gale Sayers set the record for the most touchdowns in a season at the time. I think it was 22 or 23. I think he did it as a rookie. I could be wrong. He also holds the NFL records for most all-purpose touchdowns. So rushing, receiving, and returning. He had 6 of those in a game. And if you look at his stats, his career was cut short, right, because of injury. But if you look at what he did, so he had rookie year, it was 5.2, 5.4, then it was 4.7, 6.2, 4.4. And this whole time, if you look at his volume stats, he didn't have that many yards. I think he had just under 5,000 career yards, but he was splitting carries. So he was only averaging 100, 150 carries a season. So I think that Gale Sayers was basically Barry Sanders before Barry Sanders. And this, I'm probably going to contradict myself later on because he had such a short career, and durability, as you'll see, is something that I value a lot in a running back. But, I think this guy could have been in the conversation for the greatest of all time if his career wasn't cut short by injury. So, shout out to, I guess, the classic era of running backs. So I'm going to have Gale Sayers at number 10.
Gale Sayers, number 10 for OY. NF, who you got at number 10?
Yeah, man. Like OY said, it's really hard to rate some of these older players. So I'm going to leave a lot of people out that you guys might include. But for number 10, I'm going with somebody modern, somebody who slipped under the radar for most of his career. But if you look at his stats, it's pretty crazy seeing that he did this in the modern era. I have Frank Gore. He had about 16,000 rushing yards, 81 rushing touchdowns. Even though he only had one All-Pro, I think to amass those stats in this modern day, top 10. The edge right there.
Frank Gore, number 10, the Iron Man of this era. The Rada, who you got at number 10?
Before I give you my number, we have to first ask, what is greatness? Is it just a guy's performance? Is it somebody who just performs well? There's a lot of guys who perform really well, but they're not that great. Greatness is all encompassing. It's more than just the player on the field. It's more than just that. But you have to find a way to quantify it. So what I did is I created a criteria for my greatest players. And it's based on three things. Number one, of course, you have to account performance. It means something. Number two is what I call the eye test / flair. How does he look when he plays? You know? And then number three is cultural impact. Was he impactful outside of football, or is he just a football player like Marvin Harrison? Go catch your ball, go home, nobody cares. So, having said that, number 10 on my list is a shocker, but if you look at the numbers, based on these three criteria, he has to make it, and it is Marion the Barbarian Barber.
Whoa! Marion Barber at number 10.
Let me explain. Sure, he doesn't have the best numbers. On my test, he has a 1 out of 5. Oh yeah, it's out of 15. Each criteria gets 5 points.
Wow.
He has a 1 improvement. He's not that great. But have you seen this man play football? Oh my God. He has perhaps the most beautiful 2-yard run of all time.
That is true.
When he plays with passion and love, and he just attacks people. And that's what I want to see. I want to be entertained, and he entertained me. So he gets a 5 on that.
Wow.
And then he had absolutely zero cultural impact. Outside of Cowboy, who knows who this guy is. So he gets a 0 on that for a total of 6 points, and he gets a number 10 spot.
And he cuts hair. A rare skill in a running back. He's also a barber.
Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he comes from a lineage of barbers. He has to. But hold on. I thought the fourth criteria for you was going to be the vibes.
I wanted to write the vibes, but I thought it was overplayed, so I switched it up.
Amazing. That 2-yard run was incredible. It goes down in history as one of the best 2-yard run, like you said. So
100%.
Incredible.
Also, this is me, right? So this is not objective. This is what I think. I love this guy.
Yeah.
He also won me a fantasy league single-handedly.
There you go.
So
Winners
he
of
has
fantasy
to
leagues.
get a spot.
That plays into it. Okay, number 10. Okay, so I'm gonna rehash what I said before. So essentially, it was easier, I think, to play running back in the day than it is to play now. The inverse of quarterbacks. Quarterbacks, I think it was, it's easier to play now than it was then. So that's how my list is gonna be kind of put together. So at number 10, I have Eric Dickerson. So I went through the stats, so I'm going to be more like a stats person on this. So he had 13.2K rushing yards, which is 9th all time, 4.4 yards per carry, tied for 65th all time, and 15.2K total yards. Played for 10 years, played in the 80s and the 90s. He's a very well-rounded running back. 9th most rush yards in 10 years at 4.4 yards per carry. It's kind of too good to keep him off the list here. I struggled between having him and Marcus Allen at this spot. They're very kind of similar, but he's just a little better at the rushing stat and at some of those receiving yards that he put together as well. So Eric Dickerson at number 10 for me. Moving now to number 9, OY. Who do you got?
So this will be quick, actually. So number 9, I have Eric Dickerson. I think, I kind of played around with putting him a little higher, but I think ultimately number 9 is about sounded right to me. And you already said the stats. I think he also had, the second greatest rookie season by a running back I've ever seen. Ezekiel Elliott has the greatest that I have ever seen.
Really?
In terms of impact on a team, Nias will back me up on it. I think he had the greatest rookie season for running back.
He came out blazing.
Eric Dickerson actually has the record for the most rushing yards in a season by a rookie. overlooked a little bit. And he definitely had that flair with the Jerry curls and the goggles. So he definitely meets all these criteria as well.
Stylistically. Hakeem Ziyech, are you ready to give us your number 9 guy over here, or you got to move rooms?
Sorry, guys, daddy duty.
I
But
got you.
yeah, I'll give you my number 9. Number 9, I have Tony Dorsett. This guy started his career with 8 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Would have been 9 if he didn't have that shortened season. I have Eric Dickerson actually rated higher than Tony Dorsett. I know Hawaii's homerism won't allow him to do that, but I'll make the right pick here and choose Tony Dorsett.
Okay, Tony Dorsett. Tony Dorsett was the great Cowboy, right? Yeah.
The greatest 99-yard run of all time.
Yeah, Tony Dorsett. I remember that. Okay, the Rada. Who you got at number 9?
I have Walter Payton. I know he's probably up there with some of you guys, but according to my criteria, he just couldn't make it. Why? He gets a 5 on performance. You can't take away this guy's performance. He has 16,000 yards, 9 Pro Bowl selections. When he retired, he was all-time most. He had all-time most yards.
Yep.
But I never watched him play, so I can't really give. I just watched some highlights on YouTube. I can't. It's hard to tell just based on highlights. So I just gave him a 2 on that. He really didn't have any cultural impact nowadays. Maybe he did in the 80s. I don't know. But now he does have a Super Bowl, and he had to get a 5 for performance. So he gets a total of 8, and he gets a number 9 spot for me.
Wow, amazing. I love that you have statistics and like a rubric which you're getting this done. I love it.
Yeah, because I know once we get up there,
it's going to be all
you guys are going to have
mathematics.
some issues. So
Exactly.
I need to,
Exactly, yeah. The math got you here. Okay. My number 9 guy. I got Marshall Faulk. Okay? Again, I'm going to read the stats here. 12.2 K yards, rushing yards, 12th all time. 19.1 K total yards, 15th all time in total. 5th all time in total yards from scrimmage. 4.3 yards per carry, 86 all time, in 11 years. So this guy was the ultimate dual threat receiver, running back. I know if you guys played fantasy football during that time that he was absolutely dominant. He was the best running back in the league for a while, with the best offense in the league, and he was a champion with the Rams, the greatest show on turf. There are other running backs with more rushing yards, obviously, and higher yards per carry. You guys mentioned some of them. But overall, as a player, at the running back position, he cannot go any lower than this. He happened to play running back, even though, obviously, he got 7,000 receiving yards. His position was running back, and he got a good amount of rushing yards. So you combine those together, I can't put him any lower than this. Marshall Faulk was absolutely dominant. Number 8, OY. Who do you got?
Real quick about Dorsett, I was saying it was 99.5. That's what I was saying.
Is it?
Yeah, it's 99.5.
Wow.
if you get 99.5, does that count? Do they count the half yard or no?
No, they can't do that.
It's always rounded down.
Yeah, I guess. But there might be a guy that does 99 and 3/4. But I mean, you still can't.
The ball is always spotted at a certain
At a yard
spot,
marker, yeah.
between the hashes. So
Yeah.
all depends on
No, don't do this, man. Don't. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
What the?
Okay, so all right, before we go off the rails.
I just got it
okay.
right now.
All right, so number 8. I have a guy who definitely had a cultural impact. Definitely. Number 8, I have the juice, O.J. Simpson.
Wow.
I know we look at him through the lens of like what happened, but if you look at him as a football player, this guy was insane. He is one of those running backs. So first of all, he was amazing in college, right? At USC, he was amazing in college, and that translated over to the pros as well. He was an MVP. We're going to see a lot of these guys are MVPs that are on this list, and nowadays that's very rare. So this guy was an MVP. He had over 11,000 yards in his career, and if you look at the years that he won the rushing title, so 1,251 yards, 2,000 yards, 1,817 yards, and 1,500 yards.
Wow.
and he always averaged what's his yard per attempt? So 4.7 yards per carry for his career. Which
Wow.
is basically like almost 5 yards a carry. So this guy was an amazing player. It's really unfortunate. Well, I mean, everything that happened, it's just unfortunate that all that stuff happened, and that's kind of the lens that we see him through now. But as a football player, this guy absolutely is one of the greatest running backs of all time.
What I want to know, how many yards did he drive in that Bronco? And can we add that to his stats? NF, who do you got at number 8?
Gotta agree with OY there. I will always remember OJ as just a horrible actor. Just a horrible actor.
An actor. What movie? I don't even remember him being in a movie.
It's a Naked Gun. He was in, he was in movies.
Naked Gun?
Yeah. With
What
Leslie
the?
Nielsen. Yeah.
I mean, look, for a football player, he might have been the best football player actor of all time.
No,
Slash.
that's gotta be that Dan Marino, Ace Ventura.
Oh yeah, Dan Marino.
Fair point.
Number 8, I mean, I won't talk too much about this since we already covered this guy, but I have Eric Dickerson. As OY stated, I think he ran for like 1,800 yards in his rookie year and then had a 2,000-yard season. I think he'd be much higher on the list if he didn't get hurt, but his career just fell off a cliff after 30 years of age, which seems to be the end-all, be-all for running backs.
It does. The Rada, who you got at number
My
8?
number 8 is Emmitt Smith.
Ooh! Number 8?
Yes.
Oh, boy.
Guys, I'm hanging up. There's one running back separating Marion Barber and Emmitt Smith. It's crazy.
You love that. You love the sandwich stat. All right, let's get this rationale for
Two of them on there.
Hear me out. Okay, hear me out. Yes, he is all-time leading rusher, 18,000. That record is actually probably going to stand for a long time.
I would agree.
He has 3 Super Bowls. So he gets on my ranking. He gets top level on performance. However, have you ever watched Emmitt Smith play? It's like watching grass grow. He's the most boring play. What is he doing? First of all, his offensive line was great. All right, let's not play around here. He had one of the best offensive lines. He just runs straight and they open a route for him. I would say 8,000 of those yards are pure offensive line yards. He's horrible, man. I don't know how he got 18. He's horrible to watch. What is he doing out there? He sucks. He can't do anything. But somehow he did all this, and so he has to get on the list. You can't take away his performances, right?
That's true.
Anyways, he gets a 1 on my. That was good.
Wow.
He gets a 1 on the eye test. He has no flair. Terrible on the eye. He's just horrible.
That's true.
And he got a 2 on cultural impact because yes, he's big in the Cowboys.
Yeah.
But nobody really. Emmitt Smith, nobody cares. Maybe I should give him a little higher just because of his blunders on ESPN from a few years ago.
Yeah.
But people have already forgotten about those.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't really argue with the fact that he got the job done. I mean, there was no flair. So for your criteria, I could see why he's not higher than that. But that's all I'll say. Okay. My number 8 guy is Curtis Martin. 14.1K rushing yards, 6th all-time there, 4 yards per carry, a little bit low, 17.4K total yards, 10th all-time in total yards. Curtis Martin, and he did that in 10 years. So even though the all-time yards is really, really good, considering he only played 10 years, 4 yards per carry, for some reason the math doesn't add up there. I don't know how he only got 4 yards per carry. It seemed like it was more. I moved him down because he seemed like one of those compilers, you know? Like, I actually bunch Curtis Martin, Frank Gore, Emmitt Smith into the list of kind of guys that, not flashy at all, just like compilers, right? And I remember I had his jersey. He was the first jersey that I ever had as a kid because it was one of those few jerseys that they had, like, at Marshall's that we could afford. That was just like $15 or something like that. So remember, I had like a Curtis Martin jersey and an Adrian James jersey. So I don't know if he's going to be on this list. He might be in the honorable mention. But I have a sentimental place for Curtis Martin. So Curtis Martin at number 8. We move on to number 7.
One of my favorite players, man.
Yeah. He was a lot of fun to watch. Number 7, OY.
All right, number 7. Oh, shoot. I forgot to pull up the guys for that. But was giving me a hard time about this, but number 7, I have Rada's boy, Adrian Peterson.
Wow.
I think, what's funny is when I was doing this in my head, when I was brainstorming this in my head, like initially I was just like, oh yeah, Peterson will be like number 10 or something. But then when I went through and I started putting this list together, I was like, there's no way I can have Dickerson or
OJ
of Adrian Peterson. If you look at OJ. If you look at what Adrian Peterson did in his career, it's actually kind of crazy because we don't realize how many yards he actually has, right? I think he was the last one, at least for a long time. He's the last one of these guys who can put up long-term, like, volume yards, other than Frank Gore, obviously. But, God, what is it? I think he has, 14,918 career yards, 120 touchdowns. And here's the crazy part, 4.6 yards per carry. Like, I was a little surprised by that number because the last few years of his career, he wasn't quite the same player. So that means that earlier in his career, he was really getting a lot of efficiency out of his runs. And if you look at what he was averaging, it was 5.6, 4.8, 4.6, 4.7.
Wow.
The year he had 2,000 yards, which, by the way, was after he tore his ACL, he averaged 6.0 yards a carry.
Insane.
6 yards a carry. That's insane, bro.
Insane.
He's another MVP, right? Yeah, he was MVP. And quite honestly, he would have had a Super Bowl. I'm sorry, Roddy, if Favre didn't throw that pick, right? I think he very possibly could have won a ring.
Heartbreaking.
Sorry, bro. So, yeah, I think it was really hard for me to put Peterson any lower than this. Like, I know Naive raves about this guy all the time.
Yeah.
But I guess we really have seen one of, the greatest running backs of all time. We've seen his career very recently, and I think we've kind of, lose sight of that.
Absolutely. Number 7, NF. Who do you got?
Yeah, I know you guys have this guy rated much higher than this, but as we said before, it's just hard for me to rate some of these older players because I haven't seen much of them, and I think maybe some of them played in an era where competition wasn't that great. I have Jim Brown at number 7. OY probably has him much higher. I know OY loves him. I mean, his stats are incredible, honestly. He had 9 seasons. All 9 seasons ended in an all-pro season. And then this guy just retired from the game early. But I was looking at some film, and there were a bunch of white defensive backs at that time. So I don't think, I think this works against him. But I have him at number 7.
Yeah.
I also have. Go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, it just seems like one of those positions that was just easier to play early on than it is now. Now, this position is very difficult to play for more than a few years. Go ahead, Yodi.
I have Jim Brown at 7 too. Yeah, for exactly the same reasons. He played so long ago, man. Like, I've never really watched this guy play. Sure, he's dominating. Like he said, it's like saying Bill Russell is the best, in basketball. I go by what I see, and he kind of looked like a regular big guy. He looked like a Brandon Jacobs or something like that. He's not, like, in today's era, I don't think this guy would do any well. He did average...
He's number 6 on Naive's list.
He did average more than 5 yards per carry, so that's really good.
Yeah.
But, I can't...
Shout out to Robbie for his first reasonable take.
Yeah, how about the style points? I don't know. Did he have any style?
He gets 2 for style because I saw him, running over a lot of guys, but like Naive said, they're all white guys.
Hey, he might be the best football player actor of all time.
Okay, another actor.
Now that I think
that's part of your criteria.
Black
Yeah, he gets a 2 for cultural impact, specifically for his acting.
All right. Nice. I like it. All right. My number 7 guy, LaDainian Tomlinson, LT.
Oh, my days.
13.6K rushing yards, 7th all-time, 4.3 yards per carry, 18.4K total yards, 6th all-time in total yards, and he played for 10 years. It's surprising he only played for 10 years. I thought he played for more because he had that stint at the end with the Jets, but he was the best running back in the league for years as well. I mean, when you look at the guys, from our prism, because we played fantasy football for all these years, Marshall Faulk dominated for a number of years. LT dominated for a number of years. Adrian Peterson dominated. These are the guys that absolutely dominated in fantasy. And this guy was the best running back in the league for years. Very exciting and unique running style. If you guys remember his body, he had a kind of an interesting body. He was like, I don't know, not compacted, but like a little bit stretched out a little bit. And he was a great showman with a lot of his celebrations. And the 5,000 receiving yards, also exceptional, because as you'll see, a lot of these running backs really, like all the great ones, only got like maybe 2,000 or 3,000 receiving yards. But Marshall Faulk and LT kind of led the way with a lot of these, as a receiving threat. So that's my number 7 guy. Moving on to number 6, OY. Who do you got?
So this will be quick since you already talked about him. Number 6, I had Marshall Faulk. We don't need to go over the stats. The only thing I'll say is the first time I ever played fantasy football, I had the number 1 pick. I had a sports management class in high school, and like we did fantasy football draft. We did a league as a class. He was our number 1 pick, and we won the league because we had Marshall Faulk. I think that was the year he won MVP. I think. Yeah, man. Like, listen, I can't stand the guy because he goes out of his way. I remember he went out of his way to take jabs at Tony Romo for no reason at all, and he just seems like a douche. But as a player, the guy was unbelievable. The greatest receiving running back I've ever seen. Like he actually could have been a receiver, I think, and actually been pretty good at it. So yeah, not much to say. It's, at number 6, I have Marshall Faulk.
Yeah, 12K rushing yards, 7K receiving yards. I mean, that's extremely impressive. Real dual threat. NF, who you got at number 6?
Yeah, number 6, I have Payton Hillis. I think just that one season. No.
What are you talking about? What? Just because he made the Madden cover?
No. I got Marshall Faulk too at number 6. But yeah, we've all talked about him. So let's just keep it moving.
He's wearing the same jersey you have on right now. All right, Rada, the Rada. Who you got at 6?
I'm only here so I don't get fined.
Let's go. Let's go. I love this. I love this.
John Lynch.
I love it. There we go.
It's better than Emmitt Smith. Marshawn Lynch is better than.
Hold on. Did Emmitt Smith cause an earthquake? I don't know. I don't know.
Look. The thing is, you guys weren't here. Maybe you guys weren't here, but I talked about how I'm basing these numbers. All right. That's why you get all these shockers. Sure, he had a better performance, but like I said, greatness is not just performance. In my eyes, it's everything.
Yeah.
And this guy was a cultural icon, man.
Amen.
He had so many cultural iconic moments. The run. Remember the run where he jumped backwards and did the thing?
Absolutely.
Oh my!
I was on Conan. Do you know any running backs that were on Conan O'Brien? Like
Darren Sharp.
Who?
Huh? Yeah, exactly.
Darren Sharp.
Darren Sharp. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Amazing.
He had the I'm only here so I don't get fined. The Skittles, incredible, and also he was pretty decent. Sure, his performance is not great, but he had more than one.
What are you talking about?
More than one.
He had a great prime. He was amazing when he was
He
in
had
Seattle.
all pro selections. Okay, he had rushing titles. He had multiple 1,000-yard seasons. He was a 5-time Pro Bowler. Don't discount this guy. All right, he was probably the most important person in that Seahawks Super Bowl champion team.
One of them, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I love that.
So he gets a lot of points for flair and cultural impact.
Thank
he had
you.
a lot of flair. The guy was so entertaining to watch.
Thank you.
know?
Thank you. I'm so
I
glad
will
you
say
brought him on this list.
he is one of the best postseason running backs I've seen in a long time. I will give you that.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially in the Super Bowl when you're down by less than a touchdown, it's 2 yards.
That's not his fault, man. Come on, don't bring that up
You
right
don't
now.
give him the ball.
Don't bring that
Yeah,
up now.
That's what NF's saying. He's saying it's not.
No, you can bring up my PTSD about that. But yeah, he has the most memorable runs, I have to say, of like any.
Yes.
He's got multiple Beastquake runs, and
He's a legend.
even
Man.
the one against if you got to look up that run what he did to Ray Lewis. He almost made Ray Lewis do the splits. You got to look up that run too. There's so many runs from like 2010 to 2012, 2013, incredible. So thank you for bringing him up. My number 6, Jim Brown. You guys mentioned him before. 13.2K rush yards, 11th all time, 5.2 yards per carry. That is not going to be replicated as a career average again. 14.8 K total yards, 28th all time. He only played for 8 years. Played in the 50s and 60s. Again, that docks him a little bit because of the era, the lack of longevity, those kinds of things. I think are fairly important. But when you bring everything together, the yards per carry in 8 years is it's too good to keep him any lower than this. His overall impact on the game of football, I will say. Also, like a civil rights guy for Black Americans in the league. He was also like kind of a trendsetter, in the 50s and 60s. So he had a big impact. So impact does play a little bit of a role, but overall, I can't keep Jim Brown any lower than 6 on my list. Moving into the top 5, OY, kick us off.
Okay, yeah, I do want to give out. I do want to give a shout out real quick to Payton Hillis. That what he did for his kids was awesome. Like that was like legit.
What did he do? He got them all mad in games?
Okay.
What am I missing?
No, you didn't hear about this?
No.
So his children were drowning actually, and so he jumped into the water to save them. I think it was his son and his niece. I think is what it was. And he jumped in to save them, and then he actually went into a coma, and so his life was actually in danger, but like they were able to save him.
Oh my God! Now I sound like an insensitive idiot.
Yeah, this happened around the time. Happened around the whole like DeMar Hamlin situation around that same time too. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, anyways, I just wanted to kind of note that. But number 5. So number 5, I have LT. LT the linebacker. No, I'm just kidding. LT LaDainian Tomlinson, number 5. You've already talked about a lot of his accomplishments. I would say he's the one guy I think that I was actually concerned would catch Emmitt Smith's record, not like rushing yards, but touchdowns. This guy had a nose for the end zone. He set the NFL. He actually did break his single season record, and if you look, he's 3rd all time in touchdowns. What is it? It's 162 career touchdowns. He's 3rd all time. So yeah, LaDainian Tomlinson, absolute stud. I couldn't put him any lower than 5 on my list.
Yeah, amen to that. NF, Ronaldo, who you
Yeah,
got?
I mean, I got LT as well, man. He didn't just break Emmitt Smith's record; he shattered Emmitt Smith's record. I think he has a record that will never be broken. He has 28 rushing touchdowns in one season. We're never going to see that again. I mean, especially in this 2-back system that we have now. But yeah, I got LT at number 5.
Okay.
I think he'd be even higher if he just won a Super Bowl. But unfortunately, he couldn't come down.
Yep.
Didn't he? Wasn't he on the sideline? Remember on that bike during the big playoff game? Was it like AFC Championship game, and he refused to go back in the game? You remember that?
I think he was hurt, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was hurt.
He was like, but no, he wasn't super hurt. He was like riding that bike. You remember? He was like,
Yeah,
he could have gone back in.
We don't know. We don't know that. I mean, Phillip Rivers, wasn't that the same game Phillip Rivers played with a torn ACL?
Did he?
I don't know. I don't know.
You got to pay through pain in these big moments. But I just remember that moment. That's something that sticks out to me, that he didn't go back into that game. I don't know. But it just seemed like if you're going to ride a bike, get back in the game maybe.
He doesn't seem like the type to sit out if he couldn't play. I mean, this guy put himself through a lot.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think you're just hating, Baggerz.
Maybe. I just remember that. I don't remember a lot about him as in terms of like what he did, like almost winning a Super Bowl, but I remember that. I have that memory about him.
He's trying to justify having him so low on his list.
But you remember how great this
7?
guy was.
He was great. He was absolutely amazing, but there's a lot of
I
factors.
also have him number 5, by the way.
Okay.
He was
Perfectly rated.
Yes, he's incredible, man. When you watch this guy, it was something I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen. He's the closest thing to Barry Sanders that I think I've ever seen. He was bouncy, fast, left, right, but he never won a Super Bowl. So sorry.
Barry didn't either.
You can't be that high. You know what I mean? Having said that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much of an impact running backs have on Super Bowls. I'm just saying, like, what you do look at is like how tenacious they are to Emmitt Smith.
Some of these guys,
yeah.
But anyways.
Yeah, he was a big part of the team. Okay, my number 5 guy is Frank the Tank Gore.
Are you insane?
16K rushing yards, 3rd all time. 4.3 yards per carry, 19.9K total yards, 4th all time in total yards, almost 20,000 total yards. 15-year career. 15-year career. Nobody else that I saw played for 15 years. That is very impressive in this era. He's a unicorn. He's absolutely a unicorn in this modern era. Nobody's able to do that. All these running backs retire a lot earlier, or they get washed out, or nobody gives them money, and understandably so. He was able to do it. Not only that, but he's like continuing to be athletic now. He's boxing. He's still like, this guy's a freak. Honestly, Frank Gore is just like a freak of nature. This is purely based on how impressive those numbers is and how durable he was. An absolute unicorn at the position, Frank Gore at number 5. Moving into the top 4 here. OY, who do you got?
Alright, so I had a really hard time with my top 4. And just like for the record, I think these 4 can go in any order. Like from my perspective, I think you can put these in any order. I just had a really hard time. But at number 4, I had Barry Sanders, guys. I had Barry Sanders at 4.
Tough.
I had a real hard time. I had a really hard time here. And I think like the thing that you'll see that separates him from some of the other guys is the winning, number 1. And quite honestly, like the thing that I value a lot in running backs is consistency and reliability. Barry was not the greatest at getting you like 3rd and 2, right? Because he's gonna try to hit the home run. But he
often did,
without a doubt.
Which he often did.
Yeah, that's true. There's no doubt that he is the most exciting player in NFL history. He's probably the most fun player to watch in NFL history. I have no problems with anybody putting him at number 1. Like, I do not have any problem. And he honestly would have shattered that rushing record. He probably would have had 20,000 if he kept playing. Who knows?
Yeah.
But looking at it, like, overall, when we get to, like, the cream of the crop. And I over the years, it's funny because as a Cowboy fan, it was always Barry versus Emmitt, Barry versus Emmitt. Over the years, like after like they've been retired, I've learned to appreciate Barry a lot more. And him walking away instead of like just going for the record, I think I respect a lot actually, because he would have shattered that record. So it was really hard for me to put him at 4, but that's kind of where I have him right now. But I have no problems with anybody putting him at 1.
Interesting. NF, your number 4 guy is
Adrian Peterson.
Adrian Peterson. Okay.
Yeah, I have AP number 4. I think he's one of the greatest runners I've ever seen in my life. Again, he didn't win a Super Bowl. And the way he flamed out of the league wasn't really nice to see. I mean, ended up on the Skins, on the Seahawks. Just a horrible ending for him. But for maybe 7 straight years, this guy was otherworldly. I'm sure defensive coordinators stayed up late at night every time they had to play the Vikings. Again, I agree with OY. I think Favre cost them a Super Bowl. But to see a running back win MVP in this pass-happy NFL, I mean, that's got to stand for something. And that's why I have him so high on the list.
I thought you were going to have him higher than this. You were going to give us crap about how low we had AP. But only number 4, so there's 3 guys better than AP, huh?
I mean...
Well, I can't wait to see him. The Rada. Who do you got number 4?
I have Marshall Faulk. We've already talked about Marshall Faulk. The reason I have him so high is he was and in his prime when I first started watching football, this was like the early 2000s, like 99, 2000, 2001, 2002. And watching this guy play was incredible, man. What that team was doing during those few years when they were on top was something amazing. He had it all. He performed really well. He passed the eye test. He was fast. He was a very complete running back. He was like he was like what Reggie Bush should have been. You know what I mean? It was so fun to watch this guy play. And also, during that time, they actually had the Rams. They had some cultural impact. They were like the greatest show on turf. They got a lot of people to start watching football. One of the biggest reasons I started watching football was because of that team. So,
and because of Az-Zahir Hakim.
What was that?
That was their great punt returner. The first Muslim guy I knew about in the league.
Was he?
Yeah.
Bro, if you like Rashid Shaheed, you gotta look up Az-Zahir Hakim.
That's right. Yes.
You're right.
Good call,
I didn't know. This is before I. Rashid Shaheed still wins in my eyes, but okay, I'll give it to him.
I agree, man. No, I don't blame you at all because he had 19,000 total yards, which is incredible. I think he's.
That's amazing.
Let me see. Top. Let me see.
3-time Offensive Player of the Year.
Fifth all time in total yards. Yeah.
Incredible player.
Yeah. No, I agree. Okay. My number 4 guy is the same as Naif's number 4 guy, Adrian Peterson, AD, all day. 14.9K total yards, 5th all time. 4.6 yards per carry. Oh, I mentioned this earlier. That's really impressive. Very impressive, especially given his the back end of his career. He still managed to average 4.6 yards per carry. 17.3K total yards, 11th all time. Really impressive stuff. Played for 14 years. So, to me, this is very similar to Frank Gore in terms of accolades, in terms of racking up a lot of those yards over the years. Not as much as Gore, but just he was the better overall runner, better overall player, better yards per carry. He was the best running back in the league for many years. Frank Gore was never that. So, yeah, for me, I just barely had Adrian Peterson ahead of Frank Gore, even though Frank Gore's stats are all better. And like you guys all mentioned this, very, very exciting player. So Adrian Peterson at number 4. OY, who you got at 3? Yeah, I think you're muted. And it looks like Naif left out. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we lost him. All right, so number 3, I have Sweetness, Walter Payton. I think you want to talk about a guy who was durable, tough, consistent, reliable. I think Walter Payton embodied all of that. He was the heart and soul of that team. I know, it's really interesting because that team was the definition of elite defense with a strong running game, right? They won the championship that year. Maybe the greatest single-season team in history, the 85 team. But, he was the leading rusher for a good period of time. I want to say almost 15 years, something like that. So it was hard for me I went back and forth between him and Barry, honestly. That was really hard for me. I think I might have borrowed a little bit from Rada's system here. I do think Walter Payton had an impact on the cultural ethos of the league. A lot of players looked up to this guy. He impacted a lot of the players. Yeah. So I have him at number 3 on my list.
Okay, nice. NF, you're back. Who do you got in your top 3? Number 3.
Why have you listed? You've listed Jim Brown, right?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Number 3, I have Walter Payton as well. For everything that OI just stated. Just to save us some time, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, nice. The Rada, who you got at number 3? It's not Walter Payton. You already said him.
Yes, I have Barry Sanders.
Really?
Of course.
Okay.
Barry Sanders is the only player that I didn't watch because I wasn't into football at the time. I was a little boy living in Riyadh. I I moved to this country. I started watching football, and then people told me about this guy, Barry Sanders, who retired early.
Yeah.
So I watched his highlights, and he was so ahead of us. He was doing stuff that was unreal, man. It was. I've never seen anybody do it since. Is there anybody in the league that's doing what Barry Sanders is doing? I can't think of one person. The only person I could think of during my era is maybe Peterson. Or remember Dante Hall? He's not a running back, but just the kind of moves. I mean,
Yeah.
LT. But he was doing that at an even higher level. It was unreal.
Yeah.
But even if you look at his performance, like sure, maybe he looked good. He passes the eye test. He gets full points. I actually have him getting 5.5 on the eye test, higher than the scale even gives you.
Wow.
But we talk about these 1,000-yard rushers. This guy had 5 seasons with 1,500 yards. Not 1,000, 1,500.
Amazing.
And he also has 15,000 rushing yards. So he performs really well.
Yeah.
So if you look at all that, you have to put him at number
But how does he look?
The eye test?
Yeah, no, I mean, how does he look? I mean, he doesn't have dreadlocks. You know,
I don't care, man. I don't care. It's not about that. It's the
does he
flair.
pass the vibe test? Does he have Riz?
Hey, he did have the visor though. Remember the tinted visor?
He did. I'm just going by your
Sometimes
by the Rada scale. Yeah.
Sometimes you can be so beautiful to watch. It just covers for everything else.
There we
You
go.
know what I mean? That's how I feel about myself sometimes.
Enough said. Well, my number 3 guy is also going to be the same as OI and Naif. It's Walter Payton. 16.7 K rushing yards. That's second all-time. No, it's not. Is it? Yeah, second all-time. Wow, more than Frank Gore. I didn't realize that. 4.4 yards per carry, 21.2 K total yards. That's third all-time. Yeah, I mean, this is just played for 12 years, played in the 70s and 80s. Just incredibly impressive. And just like a bruising runner, the most well-rounded running back of all time. So Walter Payton can't go any lower than this. Entering our number 2, our top 2 guys, OY, who you got at number 2?
Okay, here we go. So number 2, I have our guy Emmitt Smith.
Wow.
The most reliable running back in NFL history. I could always hand him the ball if I need 3rd and 2, except for that Philly game. But if I need 3rd and 2, if I need 4th and goal, if I need something, he's going to get me those 2, 3, 4 yards. He's not going to break it for like 60. He's not going to break it for 70. But he will get you like those 5, 6 yards that you need, and he will do it all the time. It is true that he had a great offensive line, but guess what, guys? You put a great offensive line with a great running back, you're going to win Super Bowls. We won 3 Super Bowls. He was the driving force of that offense, right? He had all those yards. He had all those touchdowns. He was the driving force of those teams. NFL MVP, Super Bowl MVP. You want to talk about moments that in the 93 divisional game against the Giants, he separated his shoulder, and he came back and he played the game. That was, John Madden said that he's only been in the locker room twice in his whole career to see a player. That was one of those times he went to go see Emmitt and basically acknowledge, what he did that game. So Emmitt Smith, Rada is absolutely right. If you want flash and you want to be excited, you're not going to get it from Emmitt. But if you want to win football games, you're going to get that from Emmitt. He's going to win you the football game. And I think for those of us who watched him growing up, like we knew that he was reliable, Mr. Reliable for like 10, 12, 13 years. So I already know where Knife has him on his list, but yeah, man, I have him at number 2. I just think he gets way too much disrespect when people put him like at like 6 or 7 or wherever they put him. I couldn't put him any lower than that.
Well said. Well said. All right, NF, who you got number 2?
Anybody who puts him at 6 or 7 is smoking crack. I'll just throw that out there.
I have him at 8, by the way.
Yeah, you're on like meth or something. I don't know what you're on. You've been chilling with Aaron Rodgers. I can't believe OY has Jim Brown number 1. But number 2, I have Barry Sanders. He is the greatest running back I've ever seen. But he doesn't have anything to show for it in terms of Super Bowls. He called it quits early. I think he should have hung in there, but then again, his situation in Detroit was tough. I mean, they weren't surrounding him with talent. He felt like everything was on him, but he is the greatest running back I've seen. Used to piss me off back when they would have the Barry Emmitt comparisons. Everybody would say Barry's better. Deep down in my heart, I did think he was a better running back, but the fact that he called it quits when he did leaves him at number 2 on the list.
Okay. The Rada, who you got at number 2?
I have Adrian Peterson at number 2.
Very interesting.
We've already talked about a lot of his accomplishments. One of the things you guys didn't mention is he also has the most yards in a single game. I think it's 396. He broke Jamal Lewis's record. It was one of the most beautiful games I've ever seen. He also
396.
I think it was 396, right? Or 296. Oh, 296?
Could be. I don't remember.
Honestly, it might as well have been 396.
Felt like
296. It was 296.
296. He was also like, I think, 4 or 5 yards away from the most rushing yards in one season. The guy was so scary. Whenever he's on the field, you just know something crazy is going to happen. He doesn't... Oh, wow, you mentioned earlier that he has like 4.6 or 4.7 yards per carry. That's actually quite misleading. He either gets 0 or 80. That's why it averaged out to be 4.6, 4.7. He is a home run guy.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm a Vikings fan, so I love this guy, but you can't deny this guy's greatness.
Yeah.
Obviously, he performs incredibly well. He passes the eye test. He's amazing. He's done so many things. You know, all the trucking moves that he's done, all the jukes. But he also had a cultural impact in a negative way. Sure, it wasn't the greatest. Yeah, he beat his kid and got famous for it. So he's my number 2 most greatest running back of all time.
Hey, listen, you're a Vikings fan. I don't put it past you. But also, even as not a non-Vikings fan, I understand. Number 2, my number 2 guy, Emmitt Smith. The yards king, longevity, durability, what Frank Gore aspired to be but couldn't quite reach, and a part of those championship Cowboys teams. 18.3K yards, of course, all time. Nobody's going to finish that. Nobody's going to surpass that. Number 1 all time. 4.2 yards per carry, a little bit lower, but 21.5K total yards, second all time. Played for 14 years. Amazing career. OY, who's your number 1 guy? We got about 5 minutes left, or 4 minutes left,
Okay.
so we'll get through these. But number 1, who you got?
So I'm going to make this quick. So number 1 is Jim Brown. I think you can make a reasonable argument that Jim Brown is the greatest player in NFL history. I think you can make that argument. I'm not going to go through all the stats. I mean, he led the league in 9 times in rushing. I think he also... Hold on, I'm sorry. I have this pulled up.
Every year he played.
Okay.
Every year he played.
Yeah, every year he played. Led the league in rushing 8 times and rushing touchdowns 5 times. And that equaled the total of Barry Emmitt and Walter Payton combined in both categories in terms of like what they did.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, so I'm gonna kind of flip the era argument. Like the argument is that the era wasn't as good back then. So I'm gonna kind of flip it a little bit. Back then, teams were running the ball more. The league was more run oriented. So everybody knew where the ball was going for the most part. So if you look at it in the era where Jim Brown played, and I got this from this website called howtheyplay.com, so credit to them. So rushes counted for, in Jim Brown's era, rushes counted for 54.8% of the offense, right? As opposed to the era when Emmitt and Barry played, where it was about 42 to 46% of the offense. So the league became more pass heavy. So, and we've kind of seen it play out over the years, right? Where now the league is almost like trending in that, opposite direction. So I think the argument that I'm essentially trying to say is that it was a lot harder to run the ball back then. It's true that, athletes got better, stronger, faster over time. That's absolutely true. But relative to that era, when it was a running game, I think it's very impressive what Jim Brown did, essentially dominating. And I think he was just one of those athletic freaks because he was also like a world-class lacrosse player
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with anybody putting those four at number one. But for me, like, Jim Brown has to be number one. I just think he impacted the game too much.
Got it. Solid points. All right, we got 2 minutes. Sorry. I'm going to see if I can extend the call. But NF, who you got at number one?
Yeah, I think it's obvious. I think everybody should have Emmitt Smith at number one. He most career rushing yards, never be broken. I think you need to have him number one for the same reason you have Tom Brady at number one. When you consider how important a quarterback is to winning Super Bowls, I think Emmitt Smith was that good to where he was the main driver behind the Cowboys' 3 Super Bowls. And you don't see that from a running back. And we don't judge running backs on Super Bowls for that very reason, that they don't really contribute to the Super Bowls as much as quarterbacks. But Emmitt Smith did. If you look at Troy Aikman's stats, they were just pedestrian compared to other quarterbacks that won. And that's why I have Emmitt Smith number one.
Okay. Ruddy, I'm sorry. I'm going to check. Who do you got at number one? I'm going to see if I
We
can
don't have that
extend the
much
call.
time, but the greatest running back of all time is O.J. Simpson. The guy was an absolute murderer, okay? He's so good. No pun intended there, all right?
Okay.
This guy passes everything. He passes the eye test, passes the performance test, and he passes culture. I don't even have to talk about it. The guy is insane. He's amazing. He's a fascinating human being, and he's the greatest by the criteria that I used. I didn't expect him to be, but you can't deny it when you see it. I just think, like, originally when I made this list, I did not have OJ as number one. I didn't think he was going to be number one, but if I use the criteria that I use, which is performance, cultural impact, and eye test, he got 5 on all of those. He was incredible, and he also looked really good, like, when he played. It was so beautiful to watch.
He had an afro. Too.
And also, I mean, this guy is an absolute legend. You can't deny his cultural iconicness.
That's
you know?
true. He is in pop culture.
I before this, I knew he was going to be number one. I knew Adrian Peterson was going to be number one. But, you know, the juice.
There you go. The juice
You know?
got it. There.
Yeah.
OY is showing the picture. Yeah, that's true. Classic look. All right. Rounding it off here, my number one guy, and I yelled it at the end of the last one, is Barry Sanders, the most exciting, talented, explosive, dynamic running back of all time, possibly player of all time. 15.2K rushing yards, 4th all time. 5 yards per carry. 5 yards per carry. Incredibly, incredibly impressive. I think you guys mentioned that before as well. That's 11th all time. 18.1K. Yeah, there you go. Barry the carry.
What is up with your screen, man?
It's just not close enough. But there we go. Nice. Barry the carry Sanders. 18.1K total yards, 7th all time. Did it all in 9 years. And of course, I have to acknowledge the fact that there wasn't as much longevity here. But essentially, he was trapped in Detroit like Calvin Johnson. And it was criminal how Detroit squandered 2 of the greatest football players of all time and just did nothing with them, him and Calvin Johnson. So Barry Sanders was my number one guy. And I want to give you guys a chance now that we have a little bit more time to give honorable mentions if you guys have any. We'll start with OY. Any honorable mentions?
Yeah, I think you guys mentioned some of them. So I was going to have Curtis Martin as an honorable mention. And I was even considering Frank Gore as an honorable mention. I would throw in Marcus Allen for sure. I was considering him at 10. I think Marcus Allen is definitely an honorable mention. Adrian James, who people overlook a lot, I think he was one of those last great running backs, along with Adrian Peterson. You know, he's kind of like Edge reminds me of a Marshall Faulk light a little bit. Like his game was kind of like that to a lesser degree. And Earl Campbell. I have to mention Earl Campbell here. The greatest bruiser of all time, the greatest power back of all time. I know a lot of people in the comments might say Bo Jackson. I think Bo Jackson's probably the greatest athlete at the position. He just didn't have the longevity. So, yeah, those are some of the guys I'd say.
Okay, nice. Who you got at honorable mentions.
Yeah, I mean, you guys mentioned some of mine as well. O.J. Simpson's there. O.Y. mentioned Gale Sayers. Curtis Martin, you guys mentioned. Earl Campbell. Thurman Thomas. Marcus Allen. Priest Holmes. Criminally underrated.
Yeah, he had a good stretch there for like 2 or 3 years.
He did.
Him and Larry Johnson.
Terrell Davis.
Very short stretch, too.
Sean Alexander.
There we go. I like that one.
Tiki Barber.
Hayfield's own.
Jerome Bettis. Edrin James, of course.
What about Ricky Williams?
Ricky Williams. Why not? Ricky Williams.
Guess what? All those guys that both of you guys mentioned didn't make it on my honorable mentions.
Jamal Lewis.
Yeah.
Corey Dillon.
Oh, Corey Dillon. UW.
Wow. I can't believe nobody's mentioned these 3 guys.
Ricky Waters.
You're just going to go
Thomas
through everybody.
Jones.
Thomas
You're
Jones.
just going through.
Come on.
What are you
Thomas
going? What
Jones.
list are you going through?
He's going through all that.
Troy Hambrick.
Get out of here.
All right, the list is falling off. All right.
Okay. No, that's it. I'm on.
All right, so I only have 3 guys on my honorable mentions, and they are purely the only reason I picked those guys. It's purely for butter purposes, and what I mean by that is how buttery were they at their prime. And buttery is a term I use for just smooth. Just when you watch him carry the ball, it just looks so good, man.
Oh, they don't fumble it.
No, it just looks
Butterfingers.
nice.
Okay.
It looks nice. And number 1 for me is Arian Foster.
Wow.
This guy.
He looks smooth.
Oh my God, butter.
Gazelle. He looked like a gazelle running the football.
Unreal. Second is Jamal Charles. Oh my God.
Jamal Charles.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So fun to watch.
Yeah.
The third guy, they said this guy was going to be great. I don't know what happened to him, but he had 1 year where, God, it was so beautiful to watch him play. Larry Johnson.
Yeah.
Of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah. That's a good one.
The butteriest of them all.
Yeah, I agree. Those are good ones. My honorable mention list here, Marcus Allen, he was barely left out my top 10 list. It was between him and Eric Dickerson. They were very, very similar. Very impressive as a receiver, 5K receiving yards. Jerome Bettis, you have to put him in there. He's like 8th all-time in total yards, but he had 3.9 yards per carry. Very, very, very low. He was like a plotter, a compiler. Tony Dorsett, I think you guys, I think maybe now have had him on the list here. Again, well-rounded, kind of like Marcus Allen. But, this guy didn't have any receiving stats. Just overall, a little lower than him. Jamal Charles had him on mine as well. This guy averaged 4.5 yards per carry. That's 5th all-time. That's his claim to fame here, 4.5 yards per carry. That's going to be very tough to beat. But just the injuries plagued him his whole career. Corey Dillon, you guys mentioned him before. He had a 9-year career, sneaky, impressive, and efficient career. He finished 20th all-time in total rush yards. And then finally, there's only one guy that currently plays in the league that I think could possibly crack this list. Can you guys guess who it is? Each of you get one guess. No? Well, why? Who do you think?
One guy still in the league?
That's in the league right now that I think could crack this list. Who do you think?
Josh Jacobs?
No, not from me. Who do you think, Rodney?
Veteran?
Oh, are you going to say Saquon?
No.
Oh my! No, I know who he's gonna say.
Who?
The Minnesota Vikings running.
No, not him.
Dare you.
Nick Chubb. Okay, this guy has 6.3K total yards. He's 81st. He has 5.2 yards per carry, which is 6th all time. Incredible. He's only been playing 4 years, so it's like I said. It's very unlikely that any running back ever cracks this list. But of all the guys that are currently playing in the league, he has somewhat of a chance if he stays healthy. He is on a trajectory to crack this list at some point, but he has to play for like another at least like 10, 11, 12 years.
But Baggerz, the problem is they don't run the ball as much anymore. I don't think any of these modern day running backs are even going to come close. Their careers are a lot shorter. Plus, he was sharing the ball a lot. So I think now if he's going to be the number one back, which I still don't think, I still think they're going to have 2 running back system. Because that's just the way of the league right now.
Yeah, no,
Derrick Henry. I mean, if you're talking modern day running backs, Derrick Henry is almost like a throwback.
He is the best of the modern day running backs, but he's not going to crack this list because his career is going to end soon. Same with Zeke. Those guys are kind of like The two best right now that are still in the league, but they're kind of sputtering out a little bit. But Nick Chubb has only been played for 4 years, and but he needs to stay on his trajectory. He's the only one that has a chance, in my book.
Do you guys remember Garrison Hurst?
Didn't he also have a 99-yard run?
No, but
Oh, okay.
he had 10,000 career yards, which I did
Yeah,
not
he was
know.
good.
I know
He was
he was
good.
really good. I know
And he was injured too. If he didn't get hurt, he would have been. Dude, nobody showed love to Priest Holmes, man. You guys don't remember that
I do.
brief prime of Priest Holmes,
like,
like 3 or 4
No, it
years.
was like a 3-year run where he was.
Yeah, 3 to 4 years where he was just incredible, man.
Yeah.
And guess who came and took his spot?
Larry Johnson.
Yeah, they were both like very, very similar. Priest Holmes was a little bit better, but indeed.
So are we gonna do running back coaches now?
No.
No. Skip Pete, number 1.
We're already at over an hour at this point, so I want to let you guys go, but I really appreciate you guys jumping on here. This was a really fun, exciting podcast. Enjoyed hearing all your lists.
Wide receivers.
And
Wide
next,
receiver.
we are getting to wide receivers. That will be our next list, the top 10 wide receivers coming up. I want to thank all the viewers. Huh?
Wayne McGarity.
Wade McGarity.
They don't even know who that is.
I have no idea who that is.
I do.
But I want to thank everyone for watching this. Rada, you're saying stay on for a second? What is that?
I did it on the chat so that you don't mention it on the chat.
He can edit that out.
Yeah.
No, keep it in. It's funny.
Okay.
I was gonna say end the recording, but stay on
End the record? No. Why? I don't get that. Why?
because I want to talk to you.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Well, thank you all for listening. I really appreciate it. This has been the Football v Football podcast. If you're watching on YouTube right now, thank you. It's been over an hour. Please go ahead and subscribe, share, comment, do all that good stuff. If you're listening on a podcast platform, if you have Spotify, follow us on Spotify. But anything, Apple Podcasts, we're on all of them at this point. Follow us on there. Give us a rating. I really appreciate it. And that's it. That's the top 10 running backs of all time. Next up, wide receivers. OY, NF, the Rada. I'm Baggerz. Have a fantastic day, football fans.